And good afternoon, producer Susan. How's things treating you today?
I'm doing great, Jersey Joe. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. Penn State win again this weekend.
Yes, they did.
What that make them 4-0 for the season or 5 and
I
0?
think five and 0.
5-0, and right. Fantastic. And home or away this coming weekend.
This is actually our bye week coming up.
Bye week. All right. So they'll still be 5-0 next weekend. Well, great. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And has fall officially come or you're still running your air conditioning?
Uh, it is 80 degrees in the house right now.
All right. So
But
fall,
stink bug season has arrived.
what season is pumpkin? What season?
Stink bug. Are you
Stink
affected
bug.
by
Yeah,
stink bugs?
I remember stink bugs. I remember them well. All right. So let's get rolling here. Anyway, so today's October 3rd. It's the situation with Jerzee Joe. Jerzee Joe, it's news and perspective you won't hear on TV. Our quote of the week is from writer and therapist Shannon Alder on whether or not what you can ever expect to hear the truth from a narcissist about themselves. In our stupidest thing I've heard all week, we'll have an explanation from the congressman who set off a fire alarm in the Capitol building last Saturday, just before the scheduled vote on the budget package to avoid a government shutdown. Did you hear about that one?
No, I didn't.
Oh, it's going to be a doozy. We'll talk about that. We'll give you an update on how many people are being killed by fentanyl in this country each year and compare that with the number of people being killed by so-called assault rifles each year, and ask if our political readers have their priorities in order. We'll tell you how, if you park your car, if you have a car with a keyless key fob, no, there's no key slot. And if you park your car in your driveway and you can start it with a keyless key fob, we'll tell you how car thieves can steal your car without having to break into it. We'll tell you how Bidenomics has now increased the percentage of people who are unable to buy their first home to more than 90%. We'll tell you about dramatic increases in carjackings in Washington, D.C., and share with you some of the reasons why they've exploded. We'll give you an example of why the push for more universal background checks won't stop criminals from getting guns. We'll tell you where Target is closing 9 stores this month alone because of organized shoplifting and theft rings. And our taxpayer relief shot comes to us from Houston, where a home invader breaks into the wrong home at 1 o'clock in the morning. By the way, how many times do these things come to us from Texas? You would think thugs in Texas would learn that people in Texas have guns.
Yeah.
Anyway, here's a quote. Have you seen any of the news reports of Trump coming out of the courthouse? He's on this trial in New York City, over some fraudulent claims he made on bank loan. Have you seen any of that?
Yeah. Yep.
And he comes out and the prosecutors. Now, don't get Trump is being persecuted, absolutely. But have you ever heard Trump accept responsibility? No, but Trump has done some dumb things. He's done some stupid. Yeah, have you ever heard him take ownership of anything he's done?
Never.
Wrong. Okay. Has he done stuff wrong? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right. By the way, claiming that your penthouse apartment is 30,000 square feet when it's only 10,000 square feet, clearly you knew it wasn't 30,000 square feet. So, but he signed the paper saying, yeah, my apartment's 30,000 square feet. Anyway, here's her quote and this is an old quote. She didn't write this because of Trump, but she wrote this about narcissists in general. She said, "You will never get the truth out of a narcissist. The closest you will ever come is a story that either makes them the victim or the hero, but never the villain." What do you think? Does that describe?
I think that pretty accurately describes him.
Right. And most other narcissists, they're never the villain. They're either the hero or a victim, but they're never the villain. And I think in the case of Trump, unfortunately, again, I like the Supreme Court judges. I like the policies he put in place. But the man has a narcissistic streak a mile wide. So again, and I think describes him to a T. All right. So you didn't hear about the fire alarm thing, huh?
I did not.
Well, as you know, the government shutdown was coming down to the wire on Saturday. It was going to happen at midnight on Saturday, right?
Yeah.
And there was going to be a big vote, and a lot of Democrats actually wanted the government to shut down so they could blame the Republicans. Well, on Saturday, just before the vote, Representative Jamal Bowman, a Democrat from New York, is on video pulling a fire alarm in the Cannon House office building on Saturday as both parties were getting ready to vote on the deal to avert the government shutdown. Now, his spokesperson said later in a statement that, quote, Bowman, who, by the way, is a former high school principal, quote, did not realize he would trigger a building alarm as he was rushing to make an urgent vote. He said he pulled the fire alarm in error, thinking it would unlock the doors that he claimed were locked. Now, either he's the stupidest son of a bitch to ever walk the face of the earth, in which case he shouldn't be representing anybody in Congress, or he thinks we're stupid to believe that story. What do you think it is? Is he that stupid that he thought pulling a fire alarm would unlock some doors? Or does he think we're stupid enough to believe that ridiculous
He
claim?
probably thinks that we're stupid enough to believe that he could make such an error.
And again, it wasn't, well, yeah, I mean, clearly it wasn't there. He was trying to stop the vote. And he's on video reaching up, and it's a red and white, it's got fire, reaching up and with his right hand pulling down the thing that says fire on it. And by the way, he claimed those doors that he's gone through 100 times from his office, to the hall where the votes take place, to the floor of the House. He claimed those doors were locked. Nobody's been able to confirm that those doors were in fact locked, nobody can ever recall those doors ever being locked. But he claimed, well, they were locked when I was trying to open the doors to get to the vote. Anyway, the arrogance of some people, and to believe, and to come up with a, number one, childish to pull a fire alarm to try and prevent a vote. That's like a kid calling in a bomb threat because he doesn't want to take a test in school.
And that happens quite frequently around here, by the way.
It does?
It does.
Well, you'd expect that from teenagers. I wouldn't expect it from a United States congressperson. And then to insult us by saying, I didn't realize it would set off an alarm. Come on, you were a high school principal and you didn't know that pulling a fire box would set off an alarm? Give me a freaking break. Ugh. All right. You want to talk about fentanyl and assault rifles?
Yeah.
Any idea how many people are killed by fentanyl in this country every year?
Thousands.
Try 70,000.
Wow. Yeah.
And if you add in the other deaths from heroin, cocaine, and opioids, you're up to 140,000 drug deaths per year. But let's just stick with fentanyl for a minute. Now, according to the FBI, do you know how many people are killed in an entire year from, quote, what people refer to as assault rifles, which, by the way, are excellent hunting rifles? Guns like the AR-15 have become incredibly popular hunting rifles. People don't think they're lightweight, they're adjustable, they're waterproof. Hunters love AR-15s for hunting. And by the way, when you hunt with an AR-15, you don't do it with a 30-round magazine. State law requires no more than a 5-round magazine. But you'll see hunters with an AR-15 with a little 5-round magazine. It's one shot at a time. It's a great deer rifle. Anyway, but if you call those things assault rifles, you know how many people a year are killed with so-called assault rifles?
I want to say 10 to 20.
Well, rifles of all kinds, including the FBI doesn't break out assault rifles, but if you break out all rifles, and there's never been a year when the number of people killed by all rifles has exceeded 460. But even if you assume that 100% of those people killed by rifles were assault rifles, and they weren't, but even if, let's assume for argument that they were, that means that 70,000 per year, that's almost 1,500 per week. That means that 3 times as many people are dying in a week from fentanyl than are killed by so-called assault rifles.
So are we talking total deaths? Or are we talking about, I guess I was thinking of the definition of a mass shooting. So you're talking
just assault, just rifles.
Okay.
Yeah. 20,000 people a year are murdered with guns in this country, and less than 460 are killed with rifles, which is less than 3%, by the way, which means the other 97% are killed with pistols. Yet we have all this political energy and money being spent on, quote, regulating so-called assault rifles. Meanwhile, 3 times as many people are killed by fentanyl in a week than are killed by what politicians refer to as assault rifles.
And I think we spoke last week on the show about how was the IRS added how many thousands of positions where those positions really needed to go to like border crossing.
Border, right. 87,000 new IRS employees
to stop the fentanyl from coming into the country.
Exactly. So I think when you look at the priorities of our political leaders, I think they're back asswards. I mean, again, you've got 1,500 people a week dying from fentanyl and 400 people a year dying from, quote, assault rifle, maybe 400 people a year, probably less, dying from, quote, assault rifles. Yet all of our political energy, political capital, and monetary capital is being, not all, but a lot of it's being,
Yeah.
much more of it is being invested in trying to ban guns than stopping fentanyl. So I just think our political priorities are just completely upside down. Anything you want to add to that before I move on?
No, like I said, our priorities, the hiring IRS over border crossing patrol, and
Yep.
yeah,
Completely backwards. All right. So do you park your car in your driveway?
I do.
All right. And you have a keyless entry?
I do.
Well, here's a little shock for you. Your little key fob can be pinged by a little receiver transmitter, and it will respond with a code. So how far away can you be from your car and hit the little button and make the doors unlock?
Well, I've actually started my car from across the country with my cell phone.
Well, not with your cell phone. I'm talking about just your key fob. Just your
Uh,
key.
maybe 100 feet.
Well, if your key fob is in the house, say, and say your bedroom and you're near the front door,
Mhm.
thieves can now, in the middle of the night, walk up to your house, look at your car. Yep, it's a keyless entry with this little receiver transmitter. They can ping your key fob and send back a code. They can clone your key fob, open your car door, and start the engine. They don't have to break a window. They don't have to break in. They don't have to break into your steering column. They can literally clone your key fob while you're asleep. Did you know that?
I did know that, actually. I did see that report earlier this week.
So if you have friends, you might want to post that on your Facebook page because, again, if you park your car in the driveway, thieves can clone your key fob. So you might now you can put it in like a steel box, one of these little tin boxes at night or something like that. But if you're in a high crime neighborhood, your car is not safe if you park it in the driveway. So just thought I'd share it with you. Want to talk about why 99% of potential first-time home buyers can no longer qualify to buy a house?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Well, in years past, I'm going back as little as 4 years ago. Now, not all new couples can afford to buy a house, and the percentage was about 50%, which was, pretty normal. Half could, half couldn't. Half could come up with a down payment, and the other half couldn't. Well, the percentage of married couples that can no longer afford to buy their first home has gone from 50% to 99%. And here's the math. And I don't want to get bogged down in too many statistics, but before Bidenomics, say you want to buy a $330,000 house and you had a $10,000 you had a $30,000 down payment, which is 10%. So you wanted to borrow $300,000, right? Well, at 3.25%, which was the going rate, 4 or 5 years ago, that would result in a monthly payment of $1,300 a month, which over the life of the mortgage would be $470,000, of which only about a quarter would have been interest and the rest would have been principal. Now, after Bidenomics, we now have mortgage rates, first-time mortgage rates at 7.25%. They've gone from 3.25 to 7.25. So you know what happened to that $1,300 a month payment?
It's about doubled.
Almost double. It's now $2,047. And that, by the way, is without counting the increase in the cost of the house, which has also gone up because of the increases in labor and materials. But now your total payments over the life of the mortgage have gone from $470,000 over the life of the mortgage to $736,000. Which, and of that 736, by the way, 436,750, which is 60% of your payments, will now go towards interest. So your interest goes from 25% of your lifetime payments to 60% of your total payments. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Going from a lifetime from 470 to 736,000, of which 60% is interest. Anyway, and that all assumes that you could still qualify for that same $300,000 mortgage. Well, guess what? Underwriters use a rule of thumb when they look at your mortgage application, and there's a rule of thumb that says your mortgage payment, including taxes and insurance, cannot exceed 20% of your monthly income. Well, if you add roughly
Is it 20 or 30%?
28%.
28%, so
which
almost
is
30.
great,
Okay.
roughly 30%. But that's your mortgage payment, including taxes and insurance. So if you add $700 a month for taxes and insurance to those mortgage payment payments, you would find out that at 3.25%, you would qualify for that $300,000 mortgage with a household income of $87,257. Now, say you're a married couple, you both work, you got no kids, maybe you're both teachers. $87,257. That's not a hard thing to achieve, right? If you're both
Yeah.
married professionals.
Yep.
Well, it's 7.25%. You know how much your combined household income would have to be to qualify for that same $300,000 mortgage?
It'd have to be almost double that.
Try about $120,000 a year,
Yeah.
which is why, by the way, the percentage of first-time home buyers who would qualify for a mortgage or can buy a house has dropped from 50%, or who can't buy a house has gone from 50% to 99. Only 1% of married first-time potential home buyers can now qualify to buy a house. So thank you, Bidenomics. All right. You want to move on to carjackings?
Yeah, let's talk about carjackings. We were just talking about stealing cars.
All right. Well, in Washington, D.C. yesterday, Congressman Henry Seller, Democrat from Texas, who became the second member of Congress to be carjacked in Washington, D.C. this year. Now, carjackings in Washington have skyrocketed from 140 per year in 2018 to 651 through just August of this year. At that rate, carjackings will exceed 1,100 this year. That's 3 per day. That is an 800% increase over the number of carjackings that were taking place in 2018. Because in 2018, it was 140. This year, at the rate they're going to hit 1,100 carjackings, which is 3 carjackings a day. So, and again, that's an 800% increase in 5 years. So you want to take a guess at what's contributing to that dramatic increase?
Probably, there's probably a number of factors, but one is probably the prosecution is lacking.
Right. Since Washington, D.C. is not a state, they don't have district attorneys like other states do. Their legal prosecutions are handled by the U.S. attorney appointed by the president for the District of Columbia. The U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia has made it clear, and he said, I will not prosecute these crimes. He is declining to prosecute 67% of the people arrested by the D.C. Police Department, and he has publicly said some of the crimes he will regularly decline to prosecute are illegal gun possession. Now, by the way, virtually all of those carjackings are at gunpoint. Well, if you're a 17-year-old kid and you know you're going to not get prosecuted for having a gun, why would you not try to carjack cars?
Yeah, there's no accountability left in this country.
What's the downside? What is the downside?
There's nothing. You get a free car.
You get a free car. So, and the other thing, as we talked about earlier, and in Washington, D.C., your chances of getting shot and killed by the driver are slim to none. So between the U.S. attorney for Washington not prosecuting 67% of the arrests, and by the way, how would you feel if you're a D.C. cop and 2 out of every 3 people you arrest get turned back out in the street?
Yeah, why would I want to do my job?
Why would you want to do your job? So anyway, if you want to come up with different reasons, but again, the fact is carjackings in D.C. have increased by 800% in 5 years, and I think it's because the link between crime and punishment is broken.
Absolutely. I mean, we're seeing this everywhere, not just carjackings and not just in DC, but look at all the big cities where crime is escalating. It's because people are not being prosecuted.
Well, funny you should mention that. Now in California, anything under $950 worth of theft is not a great. So by the way, so when 25 people come into a store and they each steal $900 worth of stuff, that's $25,000 worth of stuff, but not a single one of those things is a prosecutable felony. So last week, Target announced that they're going to close 9 stores on October 21st. This was it was bang. It was 4 weeks notice. And here's the announcement. They said, we're shuttering 9 stores because of theft and organized retail crime are threatening the safety of our teams and guests. Target said it cannot continue to operate the 9 stores in 4 states because they are, quote, contributing to unsustainable business performance. The closings include a New York City store in Harlem, 2 Seattle stores, 3 stores in San Francisco, 3 in Portland. And now, what do all 4 of those cities have in common besides record-breaking levels of theft?
They all have Democratic prosecutors who don't prosecute crime.
Right. Decades of Democrat-controlled city government. That's the only thing they have in common. By the way, have you heard about Target closing any stores in Omaha?
No.
How about Des Moines, Iowa?
Nope.
Sioux City, Iowa?
Nope.
Nope. So doesn't happen there, right? How about Rutland? How about Burlington, Vermont? No.
Nope. Nope.
No. Because there they put crooks in jail. In those stores, no, you're free to go and do it again tomorrow. So 9 stores in 4 cities on 4 weeks' notice. Bang. All right. So let's talk about universal. So let's talk about thugs with guns. First, what type of transactions do universal background checks laws apply to? And second, why won't they prevent criminals from getting guns? Well, first of all, this whole thing about universal background checks apply to private sales only. Now, gun shows sales are already covered by federal law requiring background checks. So this thing about gun show loopholes non-existent. Only gun dealers buy tables at gun shows, and no matter where a gun dealer sells a gun, he has to do a federal background check. Now, what a universal background law requires, by the way, if my neighbor, who probably has more guns than I do, but doesn't have a shotgun, says, "Hey, Joe, I'm going duck hunting next weekend. Can you loan me a shotgun, one of your shotguns, so I go duck hunting?" Do you know, under a universal background check law, my neighbor who has, assault rifles, he's got a concealed carry permit, he's got high-powered hunting rifles, theoretically and technically, before I loan him my shotgun, we're supposed to run a background check on him. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yes. If my brother-in-law wants to borrow up one of my guns to go, pheasant hunting, theoretically, I'm supposed to have a background. That's all universal background checks do. Now, the U.S. Department of Justice did a study where criminals get their guns. And the vast majority, better than 80%, either buy them on the black market or they steal them. The few percentage, like 12%, that bought them legally before they were criminals. They went to a gun store, they bought a gun, they passed the background check because they weren't yet criminals. So the study done by the Department of Justice said universal background checks will not stop criminals from getting guns, because criminals do not buy their guns from private sellers. They either buy stolen guns, they steal the guns, or they buy them legally from gun stores before they become criminals. There is virtually no case where a criminal bought a gun from an illegal transaction from a private seller. Now, there are private sellers who buy what's called straw purchases. They buy guns with the intention of reselling them, but that is a legal transaction to start with. Mm-hmm. And that guy doing what's called a straw purchase is not going to conduct a background check, even if the law requires it. So no. And here's an example. Last week, New York State, they found this 14-year-old kid in school, and it turned out he had driven a stolen moped to school. And when they got the moped, you know what they found in the little glove compartment on the moped? A 9mm pistol. So now, if only New York State had a universal background check law that made selling a pistol to a 14-year-old boy illegal, that wouldn't have happened. Oh, but wait, New York State does have a universal background check law. And selling a pistol to a 14-year-old boy in a private sale is illegal under federal law. So how does a 14-year-old kid get a 9mm pistol?
He either stole it or was given to him.
Or he bought it on the black market. He bought it from somebody else who stole it.
Or a friend, a friend gave it to him who probably got it illegally.
So clearly, if a 14-year-old kid can get a 9mm pistol, universal background checks would not have stopped that in the past, and they won't stop it in the future. So much for that. How much time we got left?
You got about 10 minutes.
Oh, okay. That's more time than I thought I would have. Okay. Well, tell you what, we may just wind up a little short this week. Did you hear about the fake restaurant in New York City that got
Oh, I
20?
did. Yeah. Kudos to them. That's
So
marketing at its finest.
so a bunch as a gag, a bunch of friends in New York City created a fake restaurant, and they created a website, and they posted private reviews, and they posted, all these great, they put Yelp reviews up. The restaurant didn't exist. Anyway,
But it
social
was
media.
real though. The dinner was real.
Well, they finally just at the end of it, but this thing went on for several
Yeah.
weeks.
Yeah.
They created the website. They had a menu, posted fake reviews, and they had a where you could sign up. They said, we're booked through. I think they were booked through like a month out, but if you want to get your name on a wait list, they had 2,600 New Yorkers sign up to be notified when a reservation became available on this non-existent restaurant. 2,600 people on a waiting list for a restaurant that didn't exist.
Yeah.
And what they finally did at the end of the joke is they rented some sort of hall someplace,
Mhm.
and they were serving like milk in pitchers. It was not even
They
close.
did get a liquor. I did hear that. I think they did get like
A
you can
one-day liquor
a one
license.
day liquor license and a 1 day restaurant or whatever. I don't know the proper title,
Right.
but basically to serve food.
But that
For
was the end. That was the culmination of the joke, the one-day dinner. But can you imagine how gullible, or the power of social media, where
No, that
that
is the power of social media. That's the power of good marketing. Yeah.
yeah, where
A
four
great
guys
social experiment that went very well.
Four guys created a fake restaurant and wound up with 2,600 people on a waiting list for a reservation. All
And
right.
apparently the food actually was very good, I heard.
Yes. Anyway, that's the power of social media. Anyway, we're going to talk about taxpayer relief shots. And we call them taxpayer relief shots because when a good guy or a good woman with a gun shoots and kills the thug, it saves the taxpayers money. And I'll let the sheriff of Santa Rosa County, Florida, give you his view on it. And here we go with the sheriff of Santa Rosa County, Florida. Here we go.
Somebody's breaking in your house, you're more than welcome to shoot them in Santa Rosa County. We prefer that you do, actually. Hopefully, you'll save taxpayers money.
And then there's another sheriff down there in Santa Rosa County, and his name, I believe, is Grady Judd out of Polk County, if I'm not mistaken. And let me see if I can find Sheriff Grady Judd. Here we go.
But we have received information in social media that some of the criminals were going to take their criminal conduct into the neighborhoods. I would tell them, if you value your life, you probably shouldn't do that in Polk County, because the people of Polk County like guns. They have guns. I encourage them to own guns, and they're going to be in their homes tonight with their guns loaded. And if you try to break into their homes to steal, to set fires, I'm highly recommending they blow you back out of the house with their guns.
All right, and then Sheriff Judge goes just a little bit further. Here we go.
I would highly suggest that if a looter breaks into your home, comes into your home while you're there to steal stuff, that you take your gun and you shoot him. You shoot him so that he looks like grated cheese.
All right, so which one of those do you like the best?
I like the Swiss cheese one. I mean, they're both good. It just proves that, law enforcement does support justified
Right.
Self-defense.
Right. Exercising your Second Amendment rights. All right. So now we're going to go to Houston, where it's 1 o'clock in the morning, and some guy breaks into this guy's house that he knows is occupied. There's a car in the driveway. He knows the owner's inside, but he breaks into the house anyway. And here's what happens. And remember, this is Texas.
Morning from overnight, a homeowner told police he shot an intruder as that man opened his bedroom door. The intruder on Naomi Street, not far from NRG Park, ended up dying. ABC 13 reporter Charlie Etzity has been speaking with police all morning and joins us live. Good morning, Charlie.
Good morning, Samika. And we also actually just spoke with a neighbor who claims that this intruder was actually inside of his backyard before moving next door and eventually getting shot and killed. Now, this entire situation happened very early this morning, just after 1 o'clock, and it all happened here at the Naomi Place complex right off of the South Loop. And so, according to HPD investigators who were out here earlier this morning, an intruder broke the glass on a back door of one of these homes and then entered inside of the victim's house. Now, this woke that victim up, who had a gun, by the way. Now, the intruder then went up the stairs and into a bedroom where the victim ended up shooting that intruder in the neck. Well, that's when the intruder then left that house and was banging on the neighbor's doors, trying to get some help. That intruder then ended up dying out here on the scene. Well, the family that lives next door to where this shooting happened, they told ABC 13 that this intruder was actually bothering them around midnight. So before this shooting happened, apparently this person was in their backyard breaking things, turning on the water hose, and even allegedly keyed their car before going next door and then getting shot.
Obviously very scary in the sense of like that these things can happen over here, but at the same time, you could actually say justice was served.
And it's unclear right now whether or not this intruder was armed at the time of any of this. And as for the homeowner who fired those shots, right now it does not look like that person is going to be facing any charges. Charlie Ed City, ABC 13, Eyewitness News.
So let me ask you a question. From the time this guy broke the glass on the back, on the sliding glass window in the back of this house, till the time he opened the bedroom door where the owner was sleeping, how many hours do you think transpired from that, from the time he broke the window to the time he opened the bedroom door?
More like minutes, 1 to 2 minutes.
1 to 2 minutes. So do you think even if the owner had called 911 when he heard the glass break, do you think the police would have got there before this guy opened the bedroom door?
Absolutely not. I mean, police are usually 5 minutes out.
By the way, in Denver, it was 14 minutes out. On the best average response time for priority 1, which is their highest priority call, was 14 minutes. So
and that's the phrase, when seconds count, the police are minutes away.
Another classic example: the guy broke the window. The homeowner heard the window break. You know, a minute later, the guy's opening your bedroom door. You're on your own. So anyway. Producer Susan, that's all I got, unless there's something you want to add tonight.
No, I know there's supposed to be a new terminology for the phrase Indian summer, but I don't think that this is actually Indian summer, because I think Indian summer has to occur after the first frost, and we haven't had a frost yet.
Okay. Well,
So,
maybe we can revisit it. Maybe you can research that when we talk about it next week. All right.
I'm not sure what this phenomenon is called right now.
Whatever it is, but here they're calling it beach weather, by the way. People are still going down the shore.
Yeah, well, 80 degrees. I was wearing shorts to work today.
Well, good for you. All right. Well, if nothing else, I want to thank all of you listened. If you want to listen to the podcast, you can find it on the podcast platform. Just search for Jerzee Joe, Jerzee, Jerzee Joe. The website is jerzee-joe.com, where producer Susan posts some of the links to some of the things we talk about. Some of the story links. You can find some of the things we talked about. You can find links to the web stories. And unless you got something else, I'll say good night. Anything else, Producer Susan?
No, do enjoy the good weather.
You too, Tara. Talk to you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.